Hey, welcome to episode 766. Wow, 766 of today's Antidote. And we've been talking all week about staying the course. And I got to tell you, this is the first time in almost 3 years of doing this program that I'm more confused on Friday than I was on Monday about this. So I'm struggling with the whole idea of whether staying the course is a short-term thing or a long-term thing. We're going to try to figure that out and so much more on our Discoveries of the Week. All that and more coming up on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I got a little visual representation from you that intro wasn't the worst I've ever done. That was kind of interesting. I'm not used to getting that feedback from you, so that was interesting. Oh, and I've hit the wrong button. There we go. Sorry about
that. Sounds like a judgment.
That's what you were doing as well.
I was not. I was just smiling.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay.
I was just, providing a little bit of feedback.
Oh, why am I getting feedback? Sorry about that. I don't know.
You don't want me to give you feedback on
No, not your feedback. Feedback
Oh.
like it's playing the audio back to me for some unknown reason.
Okay.
Apologies.
They got some issues going on over there.
When have you ever been around me when I haven't had at least one issue?
Well, there have been times.
Okay. I have not been around for them, so I'm excited to see them.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Good morning. And this is today's Antidote, as Bob mentioned, our daily broadcast and podcast, where each week we have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic has been staying the course. And that is as a result of a longer conversation we've been having about your pathway. And last week we talked about checkpoints. And then for this week and the coming weeks, we're going to talk about all the options you have after those checkpoints. One of those being staying the course. And so as we've been having that conversation, we've appreciated all the comments we've gotten, and we welcome them today as we try to share our discoveries of the week. And Bob tries to get some clarity around this topic. It was interesting that you are more confused than you were at the start. So please feel free to share your thoughts and ideas, and we'll offer our discovery of the week. Because we know that your thoughts and ideas will add value to the show. Before we dive into that, though, each morning Bob and I share our celebrations. So, Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate the fact that I've been working all week on something for my business, and it's going to launch on Monday, and I'm really excited about it. It's a big step forward. I can't go into the details, but it's something that if you had told me 3 weeks ago that I was going to do it, I would have not believed it. But I've managed to make it work. It's a little bit of a stretch for me in a couple of ways. I'm excited for what starts on Monday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
How will you celebrate once it launches? Or you could even celebrate this weekend that you took that step to do this.
I actually celebrated it with a friend last night. I went out to dinner with someone who is in a similar space, and he was asking me about my business, and I walked him through it, and he said, "Wow, that's really an accomplishment." I said, "Yeah, it's a good step." And he said, "We should have a toast," and we had a toast to it.
With what?
We actually, because of the person I was with, it was lemonade for me, and it was actually ice water for him.
Cool. Well, there's nothing that says you can't toast with those drinks.
That's it. We celebrated. It was very nice. It was very sweet of him because he asked about my business, and I said, "Well, I got something I'm doing that's a little unusual for me." And he listened very intently, and he said, "Wow, that's really a step. Wow, you really believe in yourself." And those were nice words to hear. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you? What do you celebrate this morning?
What am I celebrating this morning? I'm going to celebrate the fact that we've been working with a coach on something, And, I feel like this week we made some steps along our pathway. And actually, I think we stayed the course with it. There were
We
some
did.
challenging times. There's some obstacles along the way. There were also some opportunities, and definitely learned some things. Learned some things that I also implemented and have seen some results from. So I'm celebrating taking those actions and staying the course. When there were times this week, it could have been very easy to be like, nope, time to change course, time to do something different, because there were some things that we were working through. So
I also think our coach kept us confident. Our coach's feedback along the way, you're on the path, keep at it. Hey, that looks good. Hey, you might tweak that, but it's hard to do it alone. And I think if either of us had been doing that by ourselves, we would have gotten discouraged. I know I would have walked away from it. The fact that we could rally each other and also interact with the coach, I think made a huge difference.
I would agree.
The plight of the solopreneur is they're alone. When they lose confidence, if they have no one to reach out to, and you can't go to your friends, you can't go to your spouse or your significant other, you can't go to your networking group and go, guys, I'm flailing here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm clueless, because no one's going to sign up and work with you if you say those things. So you feel really alone. And I've felt that in the past. It's one of the benefits I find of working with you, is that when you have a down day, I can pick you up. And when I have a down day, you can pick me up. Fortunately for you, it's usually me who's got the down day, but that's another story. And I think for people who are looking for that voice that you can hear that says to you, hey, you're making progress, I think that's where coaching comes into play. I think that's one of the things that you and I really provide through our Renegade Success Network, is that ability to come in, be open, be honest, say you're not confident, and not have either of us laugh at you or go, what is wrong with you? You own a business, or you're a leader. How dare you? But say, okay. And what's next? What are the options? How can you move forward? And I think that's a really powerful tool that often gets overlooked.
No doubt. And I think, it helps to have, it's interesting. I think that having strategies and systems, which is what we're kind of following along with, is really valuable and can create some confidence. It can help you feel like, okay, I know the next steps. I'm going to keep taking them. And at the same time, sometimes they're challenging. As I always say, there's with every opportunity, there are obstacles. With every obstacle, there's opportunities. And so it's not always easy to do that. So that's my celebration for today.
I like it. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So you sounded a little confused in your introduction about our topic, staying the course, and what you've discovered. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So we had this topic for the week, staying the course. And I thought, and you and I we talk about the topic. So it's not like this was new to me, but we don't really go in depth. We really have gotten to a place where we talk about these on the program and find our way through it. And so I thought that we were talking about staying the course, big picture, that I want to double my number of customers by June 30th, let's say. Or I want my team to be 40% more productive than they were the last quarter. That would be the stay the course. I want to reach that goal. And staying the course is I'll do whatever I have to do to accomplish that. And so we might have weekly meetings, and we might realize that we're not going to have weekly meetings because there are too many and they can't achieve what they need to achieve, and they know what they're doing, and the less you're involved. Or the other side of that is it could be staying the course in terms of something more short term. So you and I were working on some marketing that you were talking about, and staying the course was literally Wednesday afternoon saying, oh, this is annoying. This is just not working the way we thought it would. This is a pain. Wow. I don't want to do this anymore. And that was staying the course. Is we managed to get through it. And so I'm not sure which staying the course we're talking about. And I'm also not sure if the staying the course short term is that helpful to staying the course long term? It might be, but it might not be. So I guess the language of staying the course is still confusing to me. What do you think?
I can understand that.
Okay.
And I think that to me, it's the whole idea of, I think it's all of what you talked about.
Okay.
I think it's the long term. There's the opportunity to stay the course for your destination, right? You set a destination, you're clear on what it is, you know when you want to get there, you know why you want to get there. That's really important. And so that staying the course is doing whatever you can to get to that point, the big course. And then I think there's also the staying the course of shorter steps. And I think what that's, to me, goes back to what we talked about last week. One of the real values of checkpoints is it allows you to sort of check in and see, okay, what I set up, whenever I set it up, and based on the results I'm getting and the actions that I'm taking and what I have learned, I have the choice to end that checkpoint. And I'm going to that checkpoint because I picked that date a long time ago, not because I said, oh, I got feedback that I didn't like, and or that I thought someone thought I was quote unquote wrong. And so now I need to reevaluate everything. And emotion gets in the way. And typically when we get that feedback, we lose a little confidence. So it's a lot harder to in the moment truly measure the progress you made. You forget all the other things. I'll go back to the NFL, and I know, like for my team, the Bills, the destination was the Super Bowl. They talk about it all the time: championships, Super Bowls. And so when they lost in the divisional round, or in the whatever round it was, and people were stopping and measuring, evaluating the season. And because they didn't reach the destination, people were losing their minds about how awful the team is, all the changes we need to make, blah, blah, because they were emotional about not getting to where they wanted to get. And at the same time, if they had just said, hey, you know what, on the Saturday before the game, we had decided a long time ago we're going to do a checkpoint and check into where we are. And we had checked in each 4 games, let's say. We could go back and look and see, there was a lot of success in there. There were a lot of things that actions that we took that we could keep moving forward from, that sort of went as we thought, which who knows, anytime there's things that you do, you don't always have control over. And so you forget over time and in the emotion of a loss. And so it could be very easy to just be like, oh, yeah, we didn't reach our destination. Easy to say that was a failure, whatever the words that people choose to use. And I think that you miss, and so that emotion drives us to jump off course and do something irrational, like fire your coach or get rid of players or whatever the case might be. And so I think that there is that opportunity at a checkpoint to say, okay, where are we at? Now let's decide, what are we going to do next? And we had that checkpoint with our coach yesterday afternoon, where we could check in, and it was something we had scheduled a week in advance, or a little more than a week in advance. And had we done it Wednesday afternoon, had we had done our checkpoint, we might have pivoted or changed course or done something. Abandoned, yes. And yet we allowed, because this was the point we had chosen, we could make the decision that, oh, okay, this is where we're at, and let's not forget all the other things that have happened, and we're going to stay the course. We're going to keep going. So I think that it has value in both ways. And really, to me, staying the course is, I'm going to take the next action that I laid out in my plan. And again, those are the pieces of how you carve your own unique pathway, is laying out what are the steps you're going to take. And then being like, okay, I took a step. I'm going to measure it, evaluate it, and not judge it. And then figure out, what do I do next? And I'll be like, okay, this is what I've learned. I want to continue. I want to stay the course. I want to take the next step that I had planned and keep moving forward. Does that make any more sense?
A little. Let me give you a scenario that I'm going through. So it's the first Friday of the month.
Yes, it is. Big day for you.
As you know, for me, that means I need to check in on myself. And I have a 2-hour block in my calendar today that's milestone check. And I'm looking at something we put together now, I think 4 or 5 months ago, that you helped me figure out a route to get to where I wanted to get. And so I'm going to check in this morning. I did a little preliminary check-in with myself yesterday in terms of here are the things that I've done in the last month. And 2 of those things on that list were not in the list anywhere. They're completely new, completely different. And a third one got added to the process the month before and is starting to move in a direction towards where I want to achieve. So as I assess this, where I am, check in, what am I looking to do at this point? Because I think that's part of this whole staying the course. Am I supposed to say, okay, you did 3 of the things on your list that you were going to be consistent about, and you did 3 new things. Where do I go from there? Because 2 of the 3 new things are actually more valuable in accomplishing what I'm trying to achieve than 2 of the things I was doing. So my guess is at the end of the day today, when I get through this process, I'm probably going to throw 2 of those things to the side and say, I'm going to focus here.
And why would you throw them to the side?
Because the results that they are achieving are not matching what I'm trying to achieve. And I've found other things through talking to people, through trial and error, through just new knowledge, experience, and perspective that I can apply and say, this is more likely to achieve this thing, including what starts for me on Monday, which was nowhere on the list because I went back and looked.
Oh, shiny new object, huh? Interesting.
Oh, well, it could be a shiny new object, or it could be an object that the knowledge, experience, and perspective of others led to, hey, this might make sense for me.
And I think we'll talk about some of that in the next couple of weeks as we talk, because our upcoming topics are course correction, pivoting, and changing course. I think that one of the opportunities is, and this would be something for you to consider as you go through this, is what are you learning? And is that new learning or the new knowledge, experience, and perspective that you've either gained or from others, or that you have gained through this process of going, what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what might I do differently? You could consider that you are going to do something different, and it's going to replace something that you thought when you started this process 9 months ago or 6 months ago was the next step. The question would be would the results of what you are thinking of giving up change over time, and whatever your next actions are? I think that one of the things that I'm hearing in that, and something for you to consider, is you have the big actions that you want to take. And I think sometimes what's hard is those actions get results or they don't. And however we feel about that, we don't have a next step that could change those actions. You just have the big thing.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to, one of your things I know was about speaking was a big part of how could you get more speaking opportunities. And I don't know, but I wonder if one of those if that's one of the pieces that may or may not be set aside for a little bit. And I think some of the challenges of not going into detail of exactly the steps is it's just, I want to work on my speaking. And you don't really know what's the next piece of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe you've done some outreach to people and your step is if your goal is I want to get more speaking opportunities, that's your destination, one of them. And what are my What's the action I'm going to take? I'm going to reach out to more people. Okay, so you've reached out to more people, you reached out to more people, you reached out to more people, and now you're not. But there's no next thing in the process.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No,
And
it makes
so
perfect sense. It's like you're
when
reading my mind.
when we lay out our actions, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then my next step is something different. So it might be, all right, I've tried to reach out through people on LinkedIn. That was my first action, LinkedIn, because I think that's where they're going to land.
Mm-hmm.
My next action is now I'm going to try Facebook. My next action might be now I'm going to just do
Don't give away all my secrets. Everyone's going to go out and become speakers.
Well, there's and again, there's all these other steps inside of it, and everybody's connections are different. Their knowledge, experience, and perspective is different, and so this is high level. So, like, I'm not sure you set up a next step that's clear, so that you could say, okay, I've done these things, and it hasn't gotten me yet to where I want to be. I can then look on my list of what's left and say, do I think you're taking your best, making the best choice you can with the information that you have, that's going to change things? And you could be like, maybe not. And then you could choose not to stay the course and go off and do something different, go to a new thing. So what I would, if that's the case, if that's what you come up with, I would try to look at whatever this new thing is and say, now you have to go back through the same process. What's my ultimate destination? When am I trying to get there? And what are the steps I'm going to take along the way to do this? And those steps are not just the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I want to bring Edward's comments in. Edward says, emotions are futile. Intuition is advancement. And I want to also, Edward was nice enough yesterday to send me a note privately, and I asked his permission to use it. And he said, considering your analysis of staying the course and checkpoints to be as water, fluid and varying, in-depth, speed, obstructions, and reactive. Bruce Lee said he was like water. And he also, this is what I love about Ed, he pointed out to me that I think it was Susie several weeks ago brought this up, and he wanted to give her appropriate credit for that from several weeks ago, which and Susie weighs in. There you go. See, so I love the fact that Edward knew his source for this. Just really classy act. So I add that. So being like water, and let me read it again because I've never really thought about this, and it really kind of threw me yesterday. I had to think about it. Fluid and varying, in-depth, speed, obstructions, and reactive. And I think that's an interesting way to look at this staying the course, because if you think about staying the course, it's often a nautical term.
Yes.
And it's kind of like I'm starting here and I'm going to get to Bermuda if I'm on the east coast of the U.S. I want to get to Bermuda and boom, away I go. And water flows in different directions. It doesn't always, the waves can move you and you have to adapt to the waves. And so being like water, I like that because I think my checkpoint look-in today at my milestones is a chance to be like water. I can be fluid and move in different directions, or I can stay exactly on the same path for another month. And I also like that the check-in comes on the first Friday of each month. So there was a point 2 weeks ago where I was going to check in and just like, this is not going the way I wanted to. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let go. I'm going to keep with the action for another 2 weeks. And I think that's one of the things that brought me confidence, that I hadn't just thrown something against the wall and said, I'm going to do it. I had thought through it a bit. And I think, and Susie adds this. You are still water even as you shift. Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And I think that's great imagery. And thank you, all three of you, for sharing that. Because I think that's helpful for someone. And I think that's what goes into, you stayed the course in that you said, nope, I'm only gonna measure my progress on the first Friday of the month. I'm not going to just jump into it because the emotions, either something's going the way you thought or not, and let that emotion sway. Because what does emotion do? Emotion typically either impacts our confidence and we become less confident, or I think we can become overconfident.
Right.
If you were getting really positive feedback about something, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to check it now because I'm killing it. And, oh, yeah, I'm doing great. Things are
Or
awesome.
I'm going to not do it for the next 2 weeks.
Correct. Why do I need
2
to?
weeks of great success. I've hit my numbers for the month. I'm done.
Yes.
See you in 2 weeks, Tom.
So in reality, you have stayed the course by sticking to something that you committed to. And again, just because you committed to it 5 months ago doesn't mean that you still have to be committed to it now. Because you've gained new knowledge, experience, and perspective that could impact that. And so, and then you just have to choose, what do you do next? And that's the beauty of the checkpoints in this. And I think we're going to come back to checkpoints for a lot as we discuss the options that come out of these checkpoints.
I would think. I want to add Jack's comment, if I may, and it is sometimes we question if we're on the right course. I do that on a semi-minute basis. Like I'm doing that a lot, and it's one of the things I'm learning from Tom. We've never talked about this, but you are really good at just seeing through something and not micromanaging it, not in the every 30 seconds going, geez, this feels, I don't think this is the best way to go. And I would bet when you're traveling, you're more apt to drive further down the road the wrong way before you stop and say, I thought I was going west and the sun's not in the right direction. I probably need to switch this up. I'm much more, hey, sun's not in the right direction, time to shift. And I might be going south when I need to go north, but I saw the sun was in the wrong place and I made a hasty decision that got me further off track. So I think I think that's a real important idea that Jack brings up, that sometimes we do question if we're on the right course, especially when, it's only natural. Think about it. If we're doing something we've never done before, how can we know the pathway? It's impossible. And I didn't realize this until a couple months ago when you said it on one of these programs. We're all carving a unique path. Every day is new. Because I was thinking about today. Today's different than yesterday for a variety of reasons. Yesterday, we talked about Groundhog Day. Today, it'd be silly to talk about that. We might as well talk about New Year's Day at this point, right?
Unless we were talking about, hey, what did we learn from Groundhog Day?
Which we could.
Shadow, we got 6 more weeks of winter, and what are we going to do about that? And we can't.
Although, if you think about that, that's us perceiving what a groundhog has said to us. And we know that if you take very decisive action based on that, it might not be accurate. And it's very similar to the experience we all have. The groundhog's shadow leads to an action. Okay, 6 more weeks of winter. And I knew a couple of people that I worked with that they would plan their ski schedule around that forecast. And like, hey, the groundhog says 6 more weeks, so we can book a trip in 4 weeks. And that was usually spring break time.
Right.
And so they would either go skiing or go to the Florida based on the groundhog. And there were times when they were in Florida and their friends were skiing and it was great skiing weather. And there were times that they were skiing and it was 45 degrees and there was very little snow and they wished they were in Florida.
Yes. And I want to go back to Jack's comment because I think this is one of the things that has been and I know this is a judgment and I'm going to say it.
Whoa.
I know. It's an adjective.
The bell's getting really wrong. Tom's going to make a judgment. Hold on, everyone. I feel an earthquake on the East Coast.
This concept has had a monumental shift for me.
Which concept?
The concept of trying to eliminate words like right and wrong. I'm on a course. Jack, you're on a course is the way I would, if you were asking for my opinion, you're on a course that at some point whenever you decided to set out on that course, you decided that with all the knowledge, experience, and perspective you had at the moment. And again, I think that one of the real benefits of staying the course to a checkpoint and having those checkpoints there is I'm no longer judging whether or not I'm on the right course or the wrong. I'm on the course that I carved. And I'm going to stay that course until I reach my next checkpoint. Again, not based on something that happened that likely I couldn't control that gave me feedback. And that feedback has created an emotion. And that emotion has then led to a difference in my confidence. And so now I'm starting to wonder about that, rather than taking the moment to say, okay, what have I learned along the way? And all those little things, because if we add up all the things we learn, we get to a checkpoint, and now we have an opportunity to evaluate all of that. We likely are going to think differently, not always, likely, than we do in the moment when the emotion is what's driving it, not the learning that we've done. That make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
It was just allow me to stop questioning, is this the right course?
It's a huge shift, though.
I'm not.
Because so much of our life is about being right. Being in school, you got the right answer or the wrong answer. So I think we're conditioned from a very early age. You do the right thing or the wrong thing. So it only stands to reason you made the right decision or the wrong decision. I think we're wired for A or B, yes or no, good or bad. And I think it's very hard to shift that. I'm struggling. You and I have talked about this countless times in the last 3 to 6 months. It really is a shift.
And I think like anything, I'm not sure you ever eliminate that. I'm not sure. I still have times when I think of the days that I sit here and are like, what am I doing? And then I say, that sounds like a judgment. And then I move on. And I say,
Susie agrees with you. She says, absolutely.
Maybe she agreed with Jack. Maybe that was her absolutely.
Well, I think that it's a challenge because letting go of the results, because that's really what that whole thing is, right? If it's a right decision, it means it achieved the result I was looking for or better. If it was a wrong decision, it didn't achieve the result.
I think it's an opportunity, like, not to let go of the results, because we can learn from results. We can.
Susie says both what you said and what Jack said. She's a quick typer. And also she says it's the hero's journey.
That's interesting. We should connect her with Peter. That's about the hero's quest all the time.
That's right. Peter Davis of Hero Quest Consulting. And Jack adds, we may want to change the course before the next checkpoint. Maybe we need to stick to it until the checkpoint. And I think that, Jack, is where I'm trying to spend more time, not to make the pivot today, but to wait till the milestone check. And I think it's kept my emotion out of it because I'm thinking of something that I really got frustrated with 2 weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? I got 2 more weeks of this. I'm just going to keep doing it. And I kept doing it. And it's turned out differently in those 2 weeks.
Funny how time can change our results.
It does. But it's also human nature. We have limited time, limited resources. And I can speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. I don't like to look wrong.
Well, here's the funny thing.
I don't like to spend time doing something and have people go, well, that was a bad decision. And this thing I talked about starting Monday, I had to really let go of the fact that some people are going to say you're crazy.
That to me is learning. Like, that's to me what this is all about, is how do we get away from, because it's interesting. When you made your statement a minute ago, there was a word you used twice. It was an adjective that you chose. You were talking about time and something else.
Limited.
Isn't that a judgment?
I think we have to accept the reality that there's a limited amount of time. We have 24 hours. I can use it a number of ways. I can't get 25 hours. I've tried. I'm still working on the time machine for the podcasts and those things, but not there. Jack's got another comment I want to jump in with. Jack says, we may want to change course before the next check. We said that one, didn't we? I'm sorry.
You read that.
Next comment. Sorry. People want to be risk averse. And I think that's ultimately, we don't.
Why do they want to be risk averse?
I know for me, I don't want to be wrong.
Because they don't want to be judged and they don't want to judge themselves. If we can stop judging, start learning, risk is not as scary.
Susie says it's survival. And Edward jumps in with multitasking is constructive to intuition and helps and confidence towards your initial course.
Yeah. I just think that along all of this, and again, I know this isn't easy. I've been talking about it for the better part of a year and a half, likely. And I still fall into the same thing. Although what I have found is I've started to let go of a lot of those things. And it's amazing the difference when you start to let go of that judgment. Like, honestly, Bob, do you really care what people think about this decision that you made for money? Honestly, does it matter to you at all?
At the end of the day, it doesn't.
Right. So why worry about it? You made the decision you made, given what you knew, having never done it before.
Right.
And you could say, okay. And I think the key thing will be is, what is the checkpoint where you're going to stop and measure your progress towards your destination?
Well, it's going to be the first Friday of March.
Right. Here's my fear.
I'll have good initial results or bad initial results, right?
And you're going to be like, why did I do this? This was a waste of time and money and effort and energy. And people are going to think I'm stupid.
Or the other way.
Or you get results and be like, oh my God, he's a genius. He figured it all out. And then 3 weeks from now, the results are different. I think it's about how do we let go of all of that? How about we put it this way? We will never let go of all of that. How do we try to let go of all of that? And I think that if you stopped and took out the words right, wrong, out of your vocabulary, every time you say it, you stop and say, wait a minute, Tom told me to take that out, and go back and rephrase it. I think you'd be amazed.
Okay. I'm going to commit to trying that. I'm going to add some more comments. Ed says emotions are futile. I feel like that's being used somewhere else. Susie claps and says bingo, and she also says my fear is never taking a risk. Wow, that's interesting.
So here's what I would say to that. Yes, you may never get judged if you don't take a risk.
And you may never judge yourself either, right?
Correct. And how much are you learning? If you never take a risk, how will you learn anything? And you're going to get results. And likely they're not going to necessarily be what you expected. I think the challenge is we take a risk with an expected outcome, which is, again, human nature.
Well, it's a calculated risk, right?
It's an action.
But the phrase is a calculated risk, right? Someone just said to me on Wednesday they were going to invest some money in something. And they said to me, it's a calculated risk. And we use that phrase I've thought about the options. He said to me, this is my best choice to do what I want to do. And I believe in this. I believe this is going to go somewhere because it was a stock.
Here's a new word I might add to my list.
Okay.
Risk. What value is risk? Why don't you say action?
That sounds like a very nice Facebook Live that you could do in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group today. What do you think?
Because it sets you up for a judgment. When you say it's a risk, you're saying, well, it's a risk because it either could go right or wrong. Correct? What are the other outcomes of a risk? It went as I planned or not as I planned. It was, I think that it is the use of the word risk heightens the importance of it. It's an action. Take an action. Pick up your phone. That's an action. I took it. Is that a risk? Yeah, I could drop it. Yeah, I could. I don't know. There's other things that could happen. It could turn on my light like it did.
Couldn't have asked for a better one.
Like, in some regards, if we start considering all the things that we're doing as an action, it allows us to, I think it'll help us start to let go of the overimportance of all of these things.
Okay. And Susie adds, it's showing vulnerability from Brene Brown. And that ultimately is very difficult for us. I struggle at times being vulnerable. It's one of the things this program, how many times after we've done a program have I like cringed and said, I shouldn't have said that. I wish I hadn't shared that.
And what is that?
It's a judgment. Absolutely.
And in some regards, vulnerable is a judgment. You're saying that, oh man, you're just sharing your value.
Well, but you run the risk of someone making a judgment about you.
What was that word you just used?
I understand, but it's also human nature.
Okay.
I've had to let go of that.
What if you let go of vulnerable?
On this program, I've had to let go of so many of the things that at the beginning I was worried about. Like now, if someone called and said, I can't believe you said that, unless it was something hurtful to that person, I don't care. And what I worry about, the other side of that, is the fact that I don't care. Does that make me cavalier and arrogant and unfeeling? Because I think that's my feel when we get into the
judgment. You shared your value. You shared what you believed had value. You have no idea how that's going to impact anyone. On the side of it, they may be hurt by it, or they may think it's the greatest thing you've ever said. They may love that you said it. You can't tell that. You don't know. All you're doing is sharing your value. I think we set ourselves up with words like vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. Well, what that means that what I might share is it's some way putting me at risk. So you got to be vulnerable. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to share everything that I have? That's just sharing your value. Is it what I say here might be considered being vulnerable to one person, another person being like, that wasn't that vulnerable. Just a judgment.
There's a lot going on. I'm just taking it in. This also might be our longest episode.
It could be. There's no doubt. I do believe you are correct.
Oh, look at that. There you go. So I want to thank Susie, Jack, and Ed for your comments. It made this discussion much, much, much more valuable to me and to Tom. I know that's a judgment. Get over it. This is going to be a really boring show if there are no judgments. It's going to be like, okay, item 1. Because think about how much of our language is judgments.
Why do you think we have so many challenges?
It's all we do all day, right? Scroll through your TikTok feed. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's boring. Oh, wow, I can't believe he's wearing that outfit. Oh, Tom's doing another video on nonprofits. Wow, okay.
It's just taking action, sharing value. That's interesting value. Okay, it's different.
Okay, I'll work on it. It's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, and I would say, so if you're struggling with how to take out right and wrong, exchange it with different. It's different.
Okay.
Or just take it out altogether.
Okay, I'll work on that.
We're all a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
It's correct. See what I did there?
Correct.
If we think that we're ever going to be perfect at anything, we're not perfect. We never will be. We can strive for perfection. And that's all we try to do. And if we just think, okay, I slipped up and I made a judgment. Now I can go back to my 3 questions. What went well? What didn't go as planned? And what might I do differently? Well, differently might be, rather than saying right or wrong, I could say different. And then I wouldn't be judging someone else or myself.
Okay. Nice.
We have intentional checkpoints, and sometimes we have unexpected checkpoints that add a lot of value.
Okay. Whew. I think we have to stop there, Tom.
All right, we'll stop there. Sorry, I was on a roll.
You're
All right,
on a roll, yeah.
Thanks so much for being with us today, and of course for sharing all your thoughts and ideas. It definitely had an impact on our show.
There you
and
go.
we appreciate that. And there are people out there who I'm sure will find great value in what you all had to share. And if you didn't comment yet, you would like to, please feel free to do that. And if you're on the podcast,
isn't great value a judgment there, Tom?
See, striving for perfection, knowing I will never achieve it.
Okay. Had to be done.
Fair. It's fair. Very fair. So if you're listening to the podcast and you would like to see all these comments, or you'd like to re-listen to this, well, obviously you could listen to it again. If you'd like to watch the sausage being made, join us in the Ring of Renegades Facebook groups, where you can share your discoveries and you can share your thoughts and ideas along the way. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. And if not, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Go ahead. Share.
I have a couple more comments. Susie does a hand clap. Jack says thumbs up. And Ed says, closing thought, I see perfection, although I get in my way. Nice. I like it.
Try staying the course sometimes, Ed, and look at those checkpoints.
Hey, and no matter what you do, embrace the renegading you. It's so worth it.
Yes, that is correct. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.